Good morning. This is Rahul Kishore. Uh, Today I wanted to talk to everyone about alimony and alimony in Maryland and what the different types of alimony there are, and also the factors that the court looks at to determine alimony. Number one, there's two basic types of alimony that you get in a final divorce proceeding. One type of alimony is what we call rehabilitative alimony, which is what we is to rehabilitate somebody to get them back on their feet after a divorce, one or either spouses. Either spouse obviously can qualify for alimony. There's different factors which I'll go over with you today, but the initial in an initial divorce case, the one type, as I said, is rehabilitative alimony, which is for a temporary period of time to get that spouse seeking the alimony to get back on their feet, retrain them, and get them back to be self-sufficient. The other type of alimony that the courts in Maryland give is what we call permanent alimony. Permanent alimony is where a party cannot get back on their feet and get rehabilitate back to the quality or standard of life that they've had during the marriage. So a typical permanent alimony case would be somebody who's been married for quite a few number of years, has their age is pretty high, and they have not been in working for a long period of time or not worked at all, and it would be hard to get them back into the workforce based on their age, based on a disability or a health issue, uh, or based on the duration of the marriage and their age to becoming retired or not being able to work. A party could get permanent alimony from the spouse that has been financially contributing throughout the marriage. The other spouse obviously has been contributing in other ways, which we call non monetary contributions during the marriage. So those are the two main types of alimony that you obtain in Maryland in a divorce proceeding. But there is one other type of alimony that I'd like to address briefly. If you do get separated and a party files a case in a Maryland court, there is a alimony which we call pendente lite alimony. That type of alimony is alimony during you're able to get pendente lite alimony during the proceedings while a case is going on in Montgomery County or any other county in Maryland that you filed a case. You can have a hearing early on in the divorce case, which allows you to ask the court, one of the spouses, to ask for temporary alimony during the litigation. And that alimony, pendente lite alimony, does expire at the end of the divorce case, and then if you do get or are qualified for other types of alimony, which is the rehabilitative permanent alimony, then will kick in. Now, the factors that the court looks at regarding alimony in Maryland is there's quite a few factors. Alimony in Maryland is not like child support, which is based on a formula. And Maryland is definitely not a formula state for alimony. There are calculators out there that certain courts use in certain states. They use to determine alimony. You put in the party's age, the duration of the marriage, how much each party makes, and the health of each party, the educational level. They put it in and they come out with a amount that the court thinks should be determined for alimony. But in Maryland, they do consider many factors. Some of those factors are the ones that I just stated, but the factors that I want to emphasize is that they look at whether you are self-sufficient. The party who is seeking alimony, if you are self-sufficient in Maryland, generally speaking, the court will not grant you alimony, except if your standard of living is going to be substantially different based on the divorce. So let's say that I'm married and my wife makes $180,000 and I make $40,000, and this has been going on for 25 years, and my income doesn't go up, but let's just assume her income continues to grow, even though I may be able to take care of myself, but my standard of living at age 55 may never be able to meet the standard of living that I've had being married to my spouse who's been making 180. In that situation, I may be able to get permanent alimony. So generally speaking, that would be a situation, even though I may be able to qualify to take care of myself, but the standard of living would be completely different, then I would be able to get permanent alimony. Now, like I said, the factors that the court looks at, the biggest factor that the court looks at is each party needs to file what we call a long form financial statement in each case, and the court reviews that. In a long form financial statement, it details all your expenses per month, the income that you earn from any forms of income that you have, from your W-2 income to rental income to dividend income to Social Security income. Any other forms of income is part of your gross income that the court will consider. You put that into your long form, you look at all your assets and liabilities, and you give a picture to the court of your financial standard, or your standard of your financial picture is what the court looks at. Now, the parties both filed a long form financial statement, and this is probably the biggest thing that the court looks at to determine whether you can get rehabilitative or permanent alimony from the court. Now, the biggest factor is when you're looking at alimony, that anybody like myself who's been practicing 30 years and doing many cases, you have to look at the background. I have a strong financial background. I have a bachelor's degree in finance and economics, and I also have an MBA, so I'm able to look at and determine, crunching the numbers, whether this court or any court in Maryland would give you alimony on a rehabilitative basis or permanent. Now, like I said, the factors that the court looks at is the standard of living that the parties had during the marriage. They also look at the age of the parties. They also look at the educational level of the parties. They also look at if there's any health issues that the parties have had, what are the income of the parties, whether either party has had any benefits that they get from the government. That is another factor that the court looks at. The other factors that the court could look at is what other property issues you have, what other assets you're going to get distributed in the divorce, and how that plays a factor in whether a party needs alimony. So if each party gets $5 million in the distribution of assets, and one party makes $250 and the other makes, let's say, $85, the court, even though they may say that the standard of living for both parties after the divorce still may be equal, or not, maybe not equal, but not at a level where permanent alimony needs to be given to the spouse that makes less money in that situation. So the court looks at many of these factors. It is much more complicated issue. You need an attorney that has had many years of experience, because most of alimony cases are based on the experience that you get in reviewing what the court looks at, what a judge has looked at, and what factors the court looks at in historical cases to determine rehabilitative or permanent alimony. And I guess I would say that if you do have an alimony claim that you believe you can get rehabilitative or permanent, and whether you need pendente lite alimony because the spouse has left you with no money and left no bank accounts, and you want to start a lawsuit, we can definitely get you pendente lite alimony during the litigation. We would seek that in the early part of the case. So I'm just trying to give you a flavor today, briefly, on how alimony is reviewed in Maryland and how the courts look at it. It is not formula based, it's based on many, many factors, and you need an attorney who can review your financial statement in detail, because that is very, very critical in an analysis by the court on how they're going to determine alimony. If you need any questions, you have any concerns, and if you do have a case that you need me to review, please give us a call. And thank you for listening to me today. Thank you. Did it start okay or not?